Hello everyone, my name is Tim Brown. Welcome to my Apple Podcast. For the next series of podcasts, I'm going to focus on the application Keynote. I'm going to show you all the features that are associated with Keynote. So for example, if you happen to be a PowerPoint user and you've been hesitant to use Keynote, maybe you're daunted by the possibility of using a new application, hopefully these tutorials will help give you a better understanding of what to expect and what you can get out of Keynote. I happen to think it's a fantastic application, and once you see this tutorial, hopefully you'll feel the same. So let's begin. When you first open Keynote, you're going to be prompted to choose a template of how you want your presentation to be laid out. You can adjust this later on, which I'll show you in future tutorials. You're also prompted to choose, or you have the option rather, to choose the size that you want. As you can see, there are 5 different dimensions that you can use, all which are primarily based on the type of resolution that you want, as well as whether you want a standard or widescreen format. For example, here is what it would look like if it was a movie file. So the first one pretty much represents a 4:3 standard video format, whereas the other 3 are widescreen. And you can see that they're, as far as the height and width are concerned, they're in the same proportion to one another. They just are higher resolutions. So you want to think about that as you're planning out your presentation in terms of, where it's going to be, what kind of a projector you're going to be using, how big the screen is going to be, and so forth. Okay, the next feature I want to show you is very simple: importing a new slide. When you import a new slide, it's really simple. You look up in the top left corner and you will see a plus sign with new underneath it. Just click the plus sign and it takes you to another slide. That's simple. Right next to the plus sign is an arrow button for play. That's the button that you press when you want to launch your slideshow. Of course, we won't be doing that until we've actually completed a project. Next feature I want to show you, right next to that, is View. Here's the drop-down menu. This is what you're going to get when you select View. And you have a range of options. You have the typical slideshow view with the slides or tiles on the left-hand side. You have the outline view, on which instead of the images, you'll have text that designates or defines each slide. And you also have a slide-only view and a tile view. Again, all of this is very similar to PowerPoint if you used that before. This will not be anything new for you. Or below that, there are some features that may be new to you, like, for example, show rulers. When you show rulers, you'll see that there are rule lines along the left and top side of your presentation. And this is very similar to a lot of Adobe products, mind you. And all you do is you simply take your cursor, you drag it from the ruler onto the stage, and you'll see a line begin to appear. Now, right now you're seeing yellow lines. The yellow lines can be adjusted in the Preferences pane, which I'll show you in a future tutorial. But here you can just drag the lines around to set up guides for where you want to place your objects in case you want to maintain some consistency throughout your presentation. Also under View, you will find Show Presenter Notes. This is a very helpful feature if you don't want to have a separate document that you're looking at while you're talking about your slides, or if you can't remember your content and you want to be able to look at your presentation and see your notes at the same time. If you select Show Presentation Notes, you'll see a little white space appear along the bottom, as you see here, and you can type in all the notes that you need to reference when you're talking about that slide. Comes in handy. And also under View, you have the option to show master slides. Again, you have this option up along the top, which I'm going to show you in a second. But if you want to have the master slides readily available, they will appear in the top left. So for example, if you have a title slide and you say, oh no, I think I want to have a couple images for this slide instead, you can just quickly access the master slides that way and swap them out. Or if you don't want to go with the presenter notes, you can also have the option to choose comments. And comments is also available up top where I have the red circle if you want to show comments that way, but it's also available under the view menu. And here you can just add comments. They're like little sticky notes. You can type any kind of reminders or special ideas that you may want to bring up when you're at that slide. It will not appear when the slide presentation is launched full screen. You can also choose to change your themes midstream. So if you decide, midway through your presentation that you're not satisfied with the look of it, maybe it's a little too bright and colorful, you want it more subdued, more formal, you want to go in and change your theme. And here you can do this under themes. So here I'm just going to go ahead and just show you. I'm going to change this theme out. See if I can find something else that's a little different. Yeah, maybe this one here. And see, and just like that, my theme has changed. So I can decide to go with this or do a Command Z if I like to change back. Okay, and right next to themes, as I mentioned before, is master slides. It's another location where you can find master slides if you want to make adjustments in the formatting of your slides. As you can see here, I have arrows pointing in both directions, just so to show you that you have both options, both under view, where you can show master slides, and or you can just select master slides from the drop down menu up above. And then text is pretty straightforward as well. You just click text box and the text box will appear. It will not appear red. I made it red just for presentation purposes. It's going to appear a light gray, and so will the border around the text box. And there'll be occasions where you're going to import the text box in and you may not see it, and it may fall in on top of a photograph, and you may be puzzled. Well, where's the text box? I clicked it, I can't see it. What's happening? It's because it's very faint. Trust me, it's there. You'll find it. And you can make adjustments to the font in the inspector window, which I'm going to probably address in another episode. And right next to text, you can also insert shapes. And here you have lines, you have arrows, squares, circles, triangles, call outs, stars, some pretty cool features. Then right next to shapes, you actually have a table. So you can insert a table if you have a series of objects that you want to show in a row, or if you're doing some comparisons, or you just want something to have a chart format. This tool is great. You click inside each square and you can insert your own content. And right next to table is the chart feature. Here you can select a variety of different charts, pie charts, columns, etc. And the graphics are absolutely amazing. Here's an example of one. And here you get two inspector menus where you can go in, change your categories or whatever it is that you're measuring, as well as change the look and feel of it. You can rotate the 3D object, you can change the colors, the color scheme of the chart. You just have a lot of different options here. And right next to that is the comment feature that I showed you earlier. It's relatively new to Keynote, is smartbuilds. Smartbuilds basically allows you to add a slideshow to a single slide. This is an alternative to, for example, importing a movie into a single slide. It sort of builds it for you, hence the term smartbuilds. So I'm going to go ahead and choose turntable as my transition feature, and I'm going to just show you on screen how this is done. So on the bottom here is a placeholder where you drag your images. And so I'm going to set up a slide for jazz album covers. And I'm going to go ahead and position my build. Double click on placeholder. My media browser appears, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag some jazz album covers into my build. And maybe I'll just drag around 4 or 6 images. Okay, get rid of that. I'm going to move this around a bit and try to adjust it. I want my builds to not appear anywhere on screen, so I'm going to try and set this up so that my image is the right size and that my builds, as they come in, since I'm using a turntable effect, that they come in outside the boundaries of my slide. So I'm getting it, I'm almost there. I think maybe I want to make this a little larger, maybe. Let's see. Okay, well, let's go ahead and play this back. And I have it set to on click, so I'm going to click and advance each one. And as you can see, they're turning just like a turntable. Very cool. If you want to wow people during a presentation, throw in a smart build and you'll have everyone cheering. And right next to smart builds is a feature called mask. And basically, without having to rely on the templates, you can add your own mask to any image that you add to a slide. And mask basically means that you're masking out a certain section of the photo. So I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate very quickly on the screen how this is done. Here I've added a mask to an image and I'm moving it around, searching for the right area that I want to crop, and you can make it any size you want. And so you just fool around with it till you find the exact masks that you want, and then when you find it, you just click outside and you have your mask. It's really that simple. It's a very convenient feature too, particularly if you have an image that's just not quite fitting into the template and you want to have more flexibility in how you do it. And there are other ways to play around with images, but this is one way, and that is with mask. You can unclick mask to return to the original image. And one feature that I've never used, because I always use this feature in the inspector, which I'm going to show in a future tutorial, but since we're covering this, let's see what alpha can do. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate for you. When you select alpha, and alpha is right next to mask, you can select the area in your photo, drag your cursor along it, and you'll see it'll start to highlight all the areas where you want the alpha to appear. When you release it, the area becomes lighter. So I'm going to try another area here. Select, drag and stop where you want it to, where you want the alpha to appear. Release, and then that's where it is. Right next to alpha is grouping. So I'm going to go ahead and actually use my alpha image and group it with a shape. And then we're going to combine the two together. Since I now have a transparent background, I'm going to add a color to the background. Instead of having to work with two shapes that I'm going to move around on my slide, I want to combine them so they become one. And so I'm just going to go ahead here and edit the square here. I want it to be a different color. I'm going to reformat it and position it over my picture, and then I'm going to send it backward so that it now becomes a background color. And then I'm going to go up and select, well, I'm going to select both images, and then I'm going to hit group so they become one. So now I have one image that I can move around on the stage. Okay, that does it for my first tutorial. For part 2, I'm going to address how to add images and video to your presentation and how to use the inspector window to edit and control how your media is presented. Until then, see you next time.